long, whether it's the summer, going back to school, whether it's Christmas time or the winter time. You know, there's never a season when there's not people in need.
And if you have a Boy Scout troop, or if you have a coffee klatch, or whatever it is, there's room.
Right. The thing that we find is that when people call us and say we have a group, suddenly we can think of something that's really critical. You know, because really oftentimes it's knowing that there are people that are available to help, that allow us to think outside the box, if you will, and gives us the opportunity to say, well, you know, now that you mention it, we've been thinking about this very thing that maybe you could help us with.
Whether you call that synchronicity or design or ministry, it works. It works.
It does.
Works, and it's to the benefit of folks.
It really
is.
It's
to the benefit of folks. We need to think. Part of that old adage that nobody wants to hear anymore, but which I'll say anymore, which is when times get tough, people get creative. Well, you know that being creative is free.
Right.
You know, but that's true. We can get creative, and by using that creativity, we can think of these connections, and we can make these connections that result in, my goodness, a child being helped, an old man in a nursing home,
or a family
being
fed.
enlivened, a family fed.
Right.
Let's talk about the feeding program, because I know that's extensive, please.
Right. Well, we have the food pantries, like we said, in all of our areas in Maryland.
Always looking for donations?
Sure. Dry goods, non-perishable goods, canned goods. We also work very closely with our partners, the Maryland Food Bank, and we appreciate all the good work that they do, because, again, in every community, it's collaborative things. You know, we all help each other. In the Baltimore area, we have the Feed More Canteen, where we have individuals, churches, civic clubs. They'll come out, they volunteer, they may bring food, we may purchase food that we prepare. 40-some thousand meals that were served last year to street people.
40,000 meals, wow.
And we had one interesting story where we had a volunteer who, while they were on the canteen, they found their uncle who was living on the street.
My goodness.
And
that's starting to talk Hollywood movie here.
Well, I'm not quite sure that we'll go that far. But it's amazing, the stories, the people you meet, that when you see them and they're disheveled, you know, they look like that typical homeless person, but then when you begin to talk to them and you recognize it was a person that used to have a stable job, they had a home, but maybe through either alcoholism or drug dependency, it could have been health problems or mental illness. It could have been a terrible tragedy that happened in their life to their family that they just couldn't overcome it. And suddenly they find themselves sleeping outside every night. And yet those are our neighbors.
Yeah, they are. And they deserve help.
They do.
They deserve help.
And that's one of the things in Baltimore that's been very touching to both my wife and I, is that people do care about their neighbor. You know, you don't hear, well, you know, we want to donate this, or we want to come and volunteer, but we only want it to go to this kind of person, or this sort of type of individual. That whether it's homeless people, it's our shelter at Booth House, it's transitional housing, whether it's the kids in the club, or the people that we help in all of our different activities, people really do care in the region and across the state. The Salvation Army in Maryland this past Christmas, for the most part, saw major increases in giving and in volunteering, and we attribute that to the spirit of people in the state.
That's something for Marylanders to be proud of,
very much.
Especially when times are tough and you step up. That's the time to step up.
Well, and with the economy, you know, people say, well, they think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we sort of smile to ourselves because we realize that we're not in this alone. That as the media or as the folks hear of the challenges that all of us are facing in the many organizations, whether it's the Food Bank or United Way or the Salvation Armies or whatever, people begin to pick up the phone and call, or they show up at your doorstep and say, we thought maybe you could use a little extra help. Here's a check for $25. It's not a lot, but we know it'll help. Or the kids who come in and they've got their jar where they've been collecting their coin. They had a thing at their school, and all the kids got together and they collected all the money that they had in their home, and they bring it in, and it's $100 that they've collected. It means a lot because it reminds us that somehow or the other we're going to get through this together.
And that's very well said, very well said. And it also reminds us that a little bit gets magnified. Because
right.
And it took me a while when my kids were young. I thought, oh, well, you know, they're saving their pennies. I mean, how much money is this really going to amount to? I could just write a check. And then I realized, well, it's worthwhile for them because they're going to remember doing that when they're 30, 40 years old. But it's also worthwhile because they're encouraging other folks to give too.
Right. We were just stationed in Florida not long ago, and all of the young people in the whole state adopted our schools in Haiti. And one of the problems there was the drinking water.
That's right. So the young people got together and they collected their loose change and got enough monies together so that they could provide clear drinking water for a school there in
Right.
Haiti.
Every school there got a water filter
Right.
system, and
Right.
it was a great thing because, again, the lesson that we try to teach not only ourselves but to share in the communities is that we all have problems. But if you just look outside your front door, you're going to find someone who's maybe a little worse off than yourself. And there's nothing better that when you're trying to deal with your own issues is to take a little time and get involved in somebody else's life as well.
That's right. You find your own problems aren't that big.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
It's
That's
true.
right. And you help somebody along the.
And you never know that when one door closes in your life, a window opens somewhere else.
That's right.
That's right. It could be the beginning of something.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
we've met people that they've had one career, and suddenly at 40 or 50,
They've
the
decided.
career that they thought they were going to be working on the rest of their life is gone, and they get